that I'm live. Okay. So today I'm going to do an SOP tutorial. I'm going to go over the elements that are included in a standard operating procedure or an SOP. And then I'm going to show you how to translate that into an actionable kind of living, breathing process in ClickUp. The way that I'm going to show you it could be applied to any project management tool. I just want to kind of go over what an SOP can look like. Now, this is just one way of doing it. So there's lots of ways to build one. I think there's some fundamental elements that need to be included in one, whether it looks the way that I'm going to show it or, maybe it looks slightly different. But I just want to go over the elements of it, excuse me, so that when you're creating yours, you incorporate those things and then you can make it look however you want. So the purpose of a standard operating procedure is to explain exactly the steps that you must take in order to complete a process, right? Or a procedure. So broken down to tiny steps. And the example I'm going to show you is actually a product that we sell. It's called the YouTube Launch Guide Bundle template, and it comes with a checklist for launching your YouTube channel based on our experience with launching ours. And then it comes with a YouTube production process, this SOP that I'm showing you right now. It comes with that template. So what I'm showing you is the actual template. And then I'm going to show you the process in ClickUp on how we took what was in this SOP and put it into ClickUp. Now, the main purpose of the SOP is to be able to hand this to someone, and then they should be able to complete the process without a whole lot of micromanaging. Um, and the other great thing about this is if for some reason your project management tool is down at some point, you should be able to follow this procedure and still complete what needs to be done for whatever the procedure is. In this example would be producing a YouTube video. So I'm gonna just go over the main parts of it. I'm not gonna go through each individual step, but I'm gonna show some areas where where the details are. A lot of times, what I find working with clients is that their procedures are not as detailed as they should be, and that creates some tension between whoever they're delegating the process to and the person delegating, because the person that's getting the task delegated to them they have questions. How do I do this? What are we using for that? And the way to avoid that, excuse me, is to have details, is to be a very detailed process. And so I'm just going to go over some main elements here and then we'll talk about some of the details. So prerequisites, you don't have to put the purpose. Oh, I just realized that this says choose a YouTube video. Okay. I don't think the purpose is necessarily, I mean, you can have it or not, right? But I would have who's involved. The prerequisite is helpful because it tells you what the person will need prior to completing this process. So it's something that the person can look through and say, okay, do I have access to all of these things? If not, they need those before they can complete the process. Or before you delegate, it's sort of a checklist to tell you, okay, I need to make sure that this person has access to all these things before I can delegate the process. So I recommend having that. You don't have to call it prerequisite. You can call it whatever you want. Um, Policy, I use policy for notes, anything specific. So like in here, we broke down our three types of videos. So we have what we call a keyword video, a tutorial video, and a live video. And I just put notes in here as far as like what's part of the policy. Okay. And then for the procedure, now I break it down this way because I think it's easier to see the shorter, just the title of the step. And then in the process, I actually go into like all the minute detail. You don't have to have procedure and process. You could just have, the process without the procedure part. But the main requirement, I would have a notes section like stating any specific notes about the process. So I would include that, and then I would decide whether you want procedure, process, if you want both or if you just want one. You can't have the procedure part without the process part. You do have to have something with the minute details. I mean, you could have it without the minute details, but then you're going to end up needing to put the minute details in eventually. Um Anyway, so that's the those are the main parts of it. So as we go through this, you can see this is just the title of the step, but then the details of it go through here, go through the rest of the document here, the detailed steps. Um, Something I do is I highlight or I bold any areas where someone's looking for something specific, a name of something. So here, this is saying to locate the folder. So it's in the marketing folder, in the content database, in draft YouTube video assets, and then inside the ClickUp Mastery channel folder, right? So to help catch someone's eye. I also include links to Google Docs if we have templates for things inside of an SOP, and any videos that you make for it. I include the link to those inside of the SOP. Actually, let me back up for 1 second. What I didn't mention, and I meant to, is that I think it's really, really important to, before you like, getting this to the place where it was listed out in exact steps with exact instructions took us actually going through it and working through the kinks and actually going through the process manually, figuring out what needs to be done. And we put it into like a kind of a messy notes document, and then we cleaned it up and put it into this template that you see here. So if you're creating a brand new process, the first thing I would do is just brain dump all the steps that you go through. Whether that means you record yourself doing it, so and then turning that, you could take that video, get the transcript for it, and then turn that into the process. But somewhere you need to start with, okay, here's all the things I do in order to complete this process from start to finish with the details. Then you can organize it into chronological order. Then you can go back and start to add the additional details, the names of folders, the naming convention for things, like those smaller details. But to start, I would have a just kind of a brain dump area where you can just dump all of those. I also want to make note that in this process, I include, and in our processes, I always include the manual steps. If you have anything that's automated, for example, in our when we get new client discovery calls, we have an automation that pulls the information from Acuity into ClickUp. Now, let's say that automation doesn't work. I make a note that if the automation doesn't work, manually you must go into Acuity, find the client's information, and copy and paste it into the ClickUp task or create a ClickUp task. And then I put the manual steps in there. So that way, if for some reason the automation's down, whatever, something's down, the project management tool's down, we have a backup on what we can do and to make sure we can still complete the process. Okay. All right. So we're going to go through, these are the details step by step. I It might seem like I have a lot of extra instructions, but at the end of the day, the more instructions, the clearer you are about this, the less time you're going to have to spend teaching the person, looking over their shoulder, walking them through it. I can hand my team this process and they can complete it with needing very little assistance from me. Not to say that they don't have questions or clarification, but whenever I do clarify something, I come in and update it inside the SOP. So I'm just scrolling through here just so you can see how I've broken it down. I do utilize the bookmarks because I think it makes it really easy if they're in here and they need to go to, okay, I'm on step 9. I'm just going to go down here. So then it'll send me down to step 9. There isn't any steps for that, but step 10, there's additional steps. Um, okay, so then that's the end of the document. So this is putting it together, having, with the main steps. This would be like our final um, draft of this. Now, SOPs are living documents, meaning they're going to change. They're going to get new data, new steps, things like that. And once you've delegated the process, once someone owns it, they also should own the responsibility of updating it. So our operations person owns this process, meaning she manages it, tells, assigns the tasks, make sure everything's getting done on time. She's reviewing things before we do. Obviously, I record the videos, but she's managing the overall process. She tells me, "Hey, Amalie, you need to record the video on this date," and things like that. So if any updates are required for this, she will update this process. I highly recommend that whoever you're delegating it to, you tell them that they own the process and allow them the responsibility and the room and empower them to own this and update it as needed. Okay, so let's go over. So now what I've done, so we have this step-by-step process. We have, create the Google folder, assign the subtasks, record the video, edit video and submit transcripts, create YouTube design elements, create YouTube copy elements. So these are all the steps. So from there, once you have this document, then you're going to go over to ClickUp or whatever project management tool, and you're going to actually create the process. You're going to create, and again, I guess not again, I didn't mention this, but this template that I'm showing you in ClickUp is also included in the YouTube template bundle that I mentioned in the beginning. I'll put the link in the description of the video. So if you're interested in purchasing that, it's $37. It comes with the SOP template. It comes with a launch checklist. It comes with this this ClickUp list. It comes with 2 other ClickUp lists as well. So I'll put that in the link in the show descriptions. Okay. So what we did was we broke it out into 2 separate template tasks. Now, these are essentially the process translated into ClickUp. So I'll start right here with this one. So in here, what we did, I've embedded the SOP. So this is the SOP right here. Now, some of these are notes because this is the template that we actually share. And then it's broken down into subtasks. So essentially, we took each of these things because essentially they are subtasks. I mean, they're steps. Not There isn't just one person that does each of these steps. These are different pieces for different members on our team. So here we have each of the steps broken down. And then inside of these are going to be checklists for each of the items that we mention in the SOP. So each of these smaller things, talking about, you're going to edit the transcript in Otter. That's what we use as Otter .ai for our transcripts. Then you're going to download the text file from Otter, upload it to the episode asset folder. And these reflect the steps that are in the SOP, the smaller steps. Each of these has the same, has checklist items. But again, I wouldn't start with trying to build it out in ClickUp or any project management tool. I would start with building out notes on a sheet, turn that into an organized process with step-by-step instructions, then take that and translate that into your project management tool and the way that I distinguish between checklists and subtasks are, I think about, like, when we're looking at these steps, to me, this is one whole sort of task per se, right? This is one step one is like this is one piece of it. And then there's smaller steps to complete the main step. And so for me, I think about it like this. This is a subtask, right? The whole process like of one video is a main task. Then the main steps to complete it are subtasks. And then any items inside of that, meaning these sub steps, are checklist items. When you and I also think about steps as like one person completing that. Like our operations person is the one that initiates the process. She's going to create the Google folder and assign the subtasks. Our designer is going to create the design elements. Our copywriter is going to create the copy elements. Um, our operations person is going to upload the captions to YouTube when they're done being edited. So each of the steps is one person's actions. Inside of those steps are the are the actions that that person is going to take to complete that step of the overall process. Hopefully that makes sense. If this was one person completing all of this, I think it would be less important to make those things subtasks. They could just be checklist items. If you were working on a process all by yourself, you could make each of these their own checklist. Like you could have a checklist. See, we even have like a YouTube publishing checklist. This is for the person that manages the process. These are just some overall things that need to be done once all these other subtasks are done. So if you are working by yourself, you could just create a bunch of checklists. But because we have more than one person working on this process, I think having subtasks is better because you can give them due dates, you can assign them, you can put their own instructions in them. Um, Versus if they were just checklists. Now you can assign in ClickUp, you can assign checklist items, but you can't really put due dates on them. And all of these things happen at different times. They don't happen all at the same on the same day. That's another reason why they're subtasks versus checklist items. Now, each of these subtasks will get completed on the same day. Like the designer is going to design all the images on the same day. So she has a subtask, and then the checklist is all the images she's going to create in one day. If she was going to create design images on 2 different days, I would probably create 2 separate design tasks. One for whatever she's doing on the first day, and then other one she's going to do on the second day. If things need to happen, like if it's dependent on something else. So that what I just described ultimately needs to be translated to all the processes that you have in your business, meaning onboarding, offboarding, client onboarding, team member onboarding, client offboarding, team member offboarding, any kind of social media management, anything any repeatable process that you have in your business ultimately, I mean, I want to say needs, but I guess you could do it without it. It's just going to be really difficult. But it will make life easier, especially with the team. If you have a team or you're looking to grow a team or whatever, if you have these things documented, one, somewhere in a document, whether it's on Dropbox or wherever, or a wiki, or if you use Google Sites and you have a wiki or Google Docs or whatever, having it somewhere and then translated into a living, breathing, actionable process and a project management tool. Both of those items to me are required, in my opinion, because even if you have the Google Doc, which is great, then you ultimately don't have a place to track anything. I mean, you could do it in a spreadsheet, but I wouldn't recommend tracking tasks in a spreadsheet. I feel like that'd be really difficult. But I'm sure people do it. Um, Anyway, so those are the steps of, so let's just go over it really quickly. So if you have a process that isn't documented, the first thing I would do is brain dump all of, like, you're going to just, yeah, brain dump all of the steps that go into that process. Whether, and you can do that by either writing it out on a document, or you could record yourself doing it and then get the transcript from it, or yeah, for it. And then you're going to take that and you're going to create that, you're going to turn that into a chronological ordered steps, main steps. And then you're going to add those pieces that we talked about. So, who's involved, any policy notes, prerequisites, whether that's, you don't have to call it that, but if requirements in order to complete the process. And then you can have process and procedure, or you can just have procedure. If you just have the process part, which is the short title of the main step, then you're ultimately missing the meat of the process, or the SOP, which is the minute detail steps, right? Those are the most important things. So again, record yourself doing it, get the transcript, turn that into the process, or brain dump everything into a document, turn it into, an ordered, nicely organized process, adding the steps to it. And side note, you can assign someone else to do that. So if someone's already doing the process, but it's not been recorded, I don't think that you as a business owner has to do it. You could, whoever's doing the process is more than capable of making the SOP, right? Because they're already doing it, so they can record themselves. So when I say who should do it, it's up to you whether you do it or the person if you have a team member that's already doing it. Once they own it, once you delegate it, they own it. They own the responsibility of maintaining it, updating it, reviewing it. Whether that's once a year or twice a year. I do highly recommend that you review and update your SOPs on a regular basis, meaning just, if that's once or twice a year, whatever. And then once you have the detailed process with notes of how to do it manually and notes of anything that's automated, you're then going to translate that into your project management tool, like I showed in ClickUp, with the steps, the checklist. I would embed, somehow connect or have a link to the SOP so people can easily find it when they're getting ready to execute that process or a step in the process. Um, all right. Well, I hope that was helpful. I think this is such an important part of business and management, leadership, and growth ultimately. So, if you have questions, I'm going to put a link that you can book a call, if you're looking for one-on-one support to get this set up, get SOP set up in your business, or to get ClickUp set up. Um, and I'm going to include a link to the YouTube launch guide bundle template, which is what I showed you today. So if you're interested in that, if you've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel, we basically took everything that we've done to launch ours, all of our research, all of the things that we learned along the way, and we just put it all into a nicely organized checklist. And then we also put it into a ClickUp list along with the SOP ClickUp list, and videos to accompany it. So, again, my name is Amalie. I'm with Systematic Excellence Consulting. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave your questions or comments. And if you catch the replay, I will, respond to those as they come in. And I thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to catch my future videos, and have a great day.